Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author of the Earthman Jack Space Saga, available over on Amazon.com. And in today's video, we are talking about a potentially new Spider-Man movie, but this time it's going to be based off of the popular character of Spider-Gwen, or aka Gwen Stacy. Is this actually happening? What can we expect from a Spider-Gwen movie? Well, we talk about it in today's video. Hope you enjoy it. But let's move on from DC back to Marvel.
Yeah.
And Steve, you're probably going to like this because we are going to be talking about the possibility of a Spider-Gwen movie in the works. So Steve wanted to see a Spider-Gwen TV show, but supposedly, again, from We Got This Covered, who now I'm doubting because of Tom's
well, this is actually something that's been in the news before, so this is just regurgitated.
And you know, so Sony's been doing this big push lately after the success of Venom to try to get their Spider-Man licenses off the ground and make them a little bit less dependent upon Marvel for their success here. And the big news today is that they're supposedly developing a live-action Spider-Gwen movie. So we're here with an article from Christian Bone. And it says, following the success of both Venom in terms of box office gross and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in terms of critical acclaim, last year it seems Sony's universe of Marvel characters is here to stay despite its mouthful of a name. The studio has various properties lined up for the near future, including Morbius, Venom 2, and more. And apparently a live-action Spider-Gwen movie could be in the cards too. The alternate version of Gwen Stacy with spider powers has been a breakout comic book character in recent years, and she, of course, made her cinematic debut in Into the Spider-Verse, where she was voiced by Haley Steinfeld. A female-centric animated spin-off featuring Gwen, Spider-Woman, and others is already in the works, but we're now hearing a completely separate project is also in development. We Got This Covered has been informed by a trusted source, the same one who told us about the in-game re-release post-credits scenes well before it hit theaters, and that Taskmaster will be the Black Widow's main villain, that a live-action film for Gwen is in the very earliest stages of development. Of course, there's always a chance that it won't end up making it to the big screen, given that it's so early on, but the idea of Sony floating around this concept fits with other projects we've heard the studio has been developing over the past couple years. Remember those Kraven the Hunter and Mysterio solo movies that were announced back in 2017. Still, a Spider-Gwen film would likely be a lot more viable than building a franchise around a C-list Spidey villain. After all, there's a real thirst for more superheroines on the big screen right now, and Miles Morales already got folks used to the idea of a multiple spider people. There's been a lot of interest from fans in bringing in the characters from Spider-Verse into live action, as well as many obviously calling for Steinfeld to reprise her role in the flesh. The actress is a bankable star, and it'd be a smart move on Sony's part if they got her back, but right now, it's too early to say which direction a Spider-Gwen film will head in. As always, though, we'll let you know once we hear more. So the big news is we're getting a female Spider-Man in the vein of Spider-Gwen. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen Into the Spider-Verse. It was an amazing movie. I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spider-Gwen was great in that film. And over the years, since I'd say probably about 2014 onward, whenever I go to comic book conventions, like there's so many people cosplaying as Spider-Gwen. Like she's super popular, she's big in the comics, and so it makes sense. But more so than that, and Tom, I want to get your take on this. Former head of Sony, Amy Pascal, who is responsible for giving us the all-female Ghostbusters film, is the one who is kind of attached to all these new Spider-Man movies that Sony's doing. And this sounds right up her alley, like putting a young female superhero right at the forefront with a proven Spider-Man license seems to be like Amy Pascal's catnip, wouldn't you say, Tom?
Yeah, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth there. The part that I got to say, though, is I did see Spider-Verse, and actually Rob and I are notoriously the only ones on YouTube who hated it, and we call it Spider Curse. And I'm not even going to get into that here because that's beside the point. I think you're right. This report I do like. I will say that they do cite that the source that gave him this gave him the other leaks that were actually good. So they're getting, they're good on that part. They're getting better. So maybe there's hope for we got this covered. On the other end of this, yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think we already heard that the Spider-Verse Gwen movie was coming soon, her solo movie. This seems like a natural offshoot, and if I'm not familiar right off the top of my head with the voice actress who played her, but if she looks just like the character, then go for it. To hell with it. Why not?
Haley Steinfeld was the lead actress in the Bumblebee movie.
Okay, so she's the voice actress that did the voice in the cartoon too. Okay, yeah, then go for it. Why not? Will I like it? It's not made for me. That's my answer. Yeah, this sounds like Amy Pascal's MO. This is one of the few that she's come up with that's just crazy enough to actually work, because it makes sense on paper and it will make sense on screen. It'll make at least 500 or better in theaters. So go for it. Why not? I believe it.
Yeah. Here's Haley Steinfeld.
Oh, yeah, she looks about like the character. You can make her look like she did in the movie. So.
Yeah, I was actually kind of hoping that we could see Emma Watson reprise her role. In terms of, she was in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I love.
Yeah, but she's getting a little old for that role now, isn't she? I love her. Don't get me wrong, but that's the way Hollywood sees things.
Gosh darn it!
I know she's too old now.
Well,
she's too old. By
Hollywood standards. So, Steve, you were talking about how excited you were over the prospect of a Spider-Gwen TV show. What do you think of a movie?
Well, I think it's one of those things where it's going to be either or. If they come out with a movie, then and it does well, I mean, they could possibly do a show. I just, I think expanding the Spider-Verse right now is going to be a really good thing and a big thing for not Sony and Marvel. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I did not really like Venom that much as a Spider-Man movie, because it really wasn't, but I thought it was enjoyable, somewhat enjoyable otherwise. I loved Into the Spider-Verse. I'm with you on that. I thought it was fun, and I thought she was an intriguing character. So it could go either way. I think it'd be one of these wonderful things that if they did it right. And Haley Steinfeld, I think she's great. I liked her pretty much in everything she's been in, starting with True Grit. I was blown away with.
That's what she was. Okay, I know exactly.
Yeah, she started. That was her.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was her first role, and she was a little smart ass girl up against Jeff Bridges with the West Arkansas.
She was also in the Pitch Perfect sequels, which are
and Ender's Game. She played Petra in Ender's Game, so I like her pedigree. I think it could be fun, but it's developing live action for Sony has been kind of one of those hit and miss things, and I have yet to see the new Spider-Man. It's been kind of a rough month, rough 2 months for me to check that out. So I haven't had a chance, but I want to see where they go further with it. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it could be a lot of fun, and it's all going to come down to, again, who's directing, who's casting, that whole bit. But that kind of kiboshes a TV show until that happens. So we shall see.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is, so of all the Spider properties that Sony has access to, I think Spider-Gwen is probably the most bankable one that they have. Because right now, like the Black Cat, Silver Sable movie that they've been kind of tossing around, like nobody really knows who those characters are. Nobody really cares.
Last I heard that was dead anyway, but yeah.
But like the recent rumors of like basically making the Spider-Man villains into like their own movies, like Kraven the Hunter and stuff like that. I mean, it succeeded with Venom because Venom is kind of like probably the most well-developed Spider-Man bad guy that they got. Who could stand on his own outside of Spider-Man.
Well, just so people know that my hatred for Spider-Verse doesn't have anything to do with Sony. I actually kind of liked Venom for what it was.
I thought Venom was an okay film. My biggest thing is like I hate that Sony keeps trying to do Spider-Man stuff. It's like just give it back to Marvel already. Just do your own thing. But it's one of the few franchises that Sony owns that's actually worth.
I agree, though. Yeah,
darn. So they're obviously and understandably reluctant to give it up, even though I think movie-going audiences in general would just prefer that they give it back to Marvel. And Marvel's probably like, like, why did we ever sign away the rights to these guys? Disney will probably have to end up buying out Sony in order to get them back under one roof. But I also don't like Amy Pascal being attached to all this stuff, because as an executive, she used to run Sony and she did a terrible job at that. And as a producer, she's been a little bit better in terms of, like, she produced Into the Spider-Verse. And
well, isn't Avi Arad still kind of attached to this shit too?
Yeah, he's attached to it too.
Yeah.
But like she got attached to it after she got fired from Sony, basically, and she went off and started her own production.
Well, that was because she produced the original ones, and then I think she put something in the whole contract deal to where she was attached to all Spider-Man stuff for X amount of years after. Yeah.
And so, like, she's in a prime position to pretty much just ruining. I think that these Spider-Man films like Venom and Into the Spider-Verse succeeded despite her, as opposed to because of her. And I could just see her really pushing for a Spider-Gwen movie because she wants that representation on screen. But I think that, like Venom, it would probably do really well, especially if you got the right actress for the role.
Well, it's one of the few that makes sense, since they can't really use Spider-Man. Yeah,
and I don't think Spider-Woman is part of the Sony license either, so that's still under Marvel. So it'd be interesting to see if Marvel, like, does a Spider-Woman movie to compete with Spider-Gwen at some point, if it goes through. I could see them just being petty enough to do that, but then that might kind of endanger their relationship over, the current Spider-Man license agreement, where I don't know if everyone out there knows this or not, but the way this works is that Sony makes the Spider-Man standalone movies with Tom Holland, and that gives Marvel permission to use that Spider-Man in their MCU movies. But Marvel has nothing to do with the standalone Spider-Man films. That's all Sony. Sony keeps all the box office from the Spider-Man films, but Marvel gets the merchandising fees from it. So Sony misses out on all the merchandising money for their Spider-Man movies under this arrangement. And that's why it was so important for Spider-Man Far From Home to hit the $1 billion mark, because if it didn't, it would be like, well, it's not worth us to keep making these Spider-Man movies because there's not enough money in it. Because $1 billion price, take at the box office helps offset the loss of the merchandising revenue. So there was a little bit of sweat there in terms of the Spider-Man movies not hitting the $1 billion mark at the box office, but thankfully it did it. And so I think we've got at least one more Tom Holland movie, standalone movie, under contract with the Disney, Marvel, Sony agreement. So I guess we'll see in that. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. I hope you got a lot out of it. And remember, if you want to support the channel, please check us out on the socials. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Matthew Kadish. You can also find our discussion group over on Facebook at eggfbgroup.com. That's eggfbgroup.com. Takes you right to our Facebook discussion group. And if you'd like to help support the channel, check out my books over on Amazon.com. You can find them by going to kadishbooks.com. That's Kadish books.com. And as always, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you're notified every time we upload a new video for more movie, TV, and entertainment news and analysis. This is Matthew Kadish. I'll catch you guys later.